Once again, thank you once again for having me. Money Show, we've had a wonderful relationship for several decades now. And I also want to thank every single supporting attendee who continues to support the Money Show and the talks that I have at the Money Show here all the time. If you are new to any of my presentations or the Money Show, I will do my best to make sure that you are in store for a very special treat. Now, the title of my talk today was basically five stocks that I believe are poised to greatly outperform the broader markets. Okay, the title you see on the slide here is 5 Ways to Explode Your Wealth. They're both one and the same, just so you know. So I don't want you to get mixed up by the slight difference in the titles today. But we're talking about 5 ways that I believe you can outperform the markets, which of course goes hand in hand with 5 ways that you can explode your personal wealth. Now, of course, I have to tell you that it's my fiduciary responsibility to say that this is not necessarily investment advice, but this is more edutainment, if you will. But pay attention, because I think you might find some interesting things in the presentation today. I am going to just briefly touch upon my history. Guys, I'm the founder of iFundTraders.com, as well as an organization all the way back at the beginning of the 1990s called Pristine Capital Management, which many people knew throughout the industry for many years as Pristine.com. Professional trader for 36 years. As mentioned, I was the inaugural keynote speaker to the very first International Traders Expo. I trained thousands of traders worldwide. I'm the best-selling author of 5 books that are written in 5 different languages. They continue to be the number one group of books on the topic of trading the markets for a living that sell throughout the world. I personally train and fund a portion of 5,000 plus traders throughout the world. And I continue to speak at organizations and for organizations throughout the world. Now, this is very briefly, this is a picture of me at that inaugural talk many decades ago. Or a couple of decades ago, I should say. This is the article by Barron's that basically ranked me and my organization the number 1 source to go to if you wanted professional trading services. If you look at the date of this dates all the way back to 1998. So I've been in the industry quite a while. This is a very quick snapshot of just a handful of my books that I said are written in 5 different languages. And of course, I'd love for you to follow me on the social networks, where I spend a great deal of time, traders, making sure that you have something of value, something new, something of value every single day that helps you take an additional step toward trading mastery, being more informed, being more educated about financial markets worldwide. In particular, please follow me on my YouTube channel, Oliver Velez Trading. There is a Spanish channel as well as a Portuguese language channel. This is one of the fastest growing trading channels on YouTube, with almost 250,000 followers. Again, 365 days a year, you're going to receive a piece of information, a video, a talk, an educational session by me that's designed to make you into a better, more informed, more educated market player. Okay, so please follow me there. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to start off by telling you that the concept of cash as being unwanted, undesirable, and basically being trash has never been more true than it is today, right? And I'm sure this is a theme that many of you listening to my talk today have probably heard in quite frequently as of late. But cash is an underperformer. And so it's somewhat sad to a certain extent, unfortunate that the vast majority of the world, they live their lives in a segment of the financial, in a segment of financial society where their dominant source their dominant resource is basically trash. It is an underperformer, and it is in a sense, places a big segment of society in financial slavery. So there's a segment of the financial world that understands, a smaller segment of the financial world that understands that cash, while useful, excess cash needs to be converted into assets in order to gain an advantage over the way the financial system is set up. And so the first step toward increasing wealth, the first step toward improving one's financial circumstances in today's world is that you must understand that cash must be gotten rid of, that you make cash and you use cash for immediate needs. But to save cash is something that our grandparents and our great-grandparents told us about is totally inadequate today. Cash is not to be saved. It is actually to be gotten rid of. It is to be spent at the moment, and whatever's not needed at the moment, it needs to be converted to something hard. So the first thing I want you to understand is that we have to get rid of cash. We have to change our view of what cash is, despite what the videos and images portray to us on social media. Cash is trash. We need assets. We need to convert cash to assets. And today we're going to talk about 5 things and potentially 6 things that you can potentially take a portion of your cash and convert it to, with the idea of those 5 to 6 things rising in value. Now, let's talk about this very quickly. A lot of people don't understand that currencies, or cash, in particular fiat currencies, they all go to zero. Every single currency is on a very fast train to zero. There is no currency that has ever survived the final destination of zero. So as an example, all right, you don't see any Roman coins floating around, right, in circulation today. You don't even really see very, very, very many French francs, British pounds. All currencies eventually fade out and go to zero. Another point to that point. Over the last 400 years, there have been over 750 currencies. Today, there's a small handful of those 750 currencies left in circulation today, a small handful of somewhat solid currencies. And even those currencies are rapidly moving towards zero. As an example, this image shows that since 1950, the US dollar has lost 90% of its value. Since the year 1913, the US dollar's lost close to 98% of its value. So it's got about 2.5% left to go to zero. It might not feel like it to you, but it is a slow death. And if you do not convert this melting ice cube into harder things that don't melt, your wealth and your future is going to melt away along with the US dollar, or any fiat currency for that matter. Now, of course, there are currencies that melt at a slower pace. The US dollar is relatively at the top of that list. It doesn't melt as fast as the Venezuelan bolivar or the Turkish lira or what have you. But they all melt. And so the key is assets. The key to escape this melting phenomena is to switch the ice cube to something hard that is not melting. Okay? Now, take a look at this. This is very interesting. This is the 10-year average returns of your key assets, right? So cash on average melts and I'm talking about US dollar cash, all right? Other currencies have much larger negative numbers than this. But the US dollar melts at about 6 to actually 8% a year over the last 10 years. All right. So this is the 10-year average of how much purchasing power cash loses, which means that you have to work 6% more every single year of your life to buy the same amount of merchandise with your cash. So you will have to become basically more and more of a financial slave that works harder and harder to live the same way, because the effect of the melting is negative. Okay. Now, this is over the past 10 years. In the past year and a half, that number is closer to 15%, negative 15%. So this is your 10-year average. We've more than doubled the rate at which cash melts, which means that today, anywhere between 12 and 15% is what we're dealing with negative, which means that every single year, if you hold cash, you are 12 to 15% poorer. You have to work 12 to 15% more. You have to earn 12 to 15% more to buy the very same things that you bought last year. And this is financial slavery that causes you to have to run on the hamster wheel, for lack of a better phrase, faster and harder without making progress at all. Now, if we go to the next asset, gold, gold has an average annual rate of less than 2%. Now, this is extraordinarily sad because gold has been the world's base form of solid money for the past 6,000 years, and it served us extraordinarily well. But in recent times, the digitization of the world has made this bulky, non-digital, analog form of money relatively obsolete. Every passing month, every passing year, every passing hour, gold becomes more and more inadequate for a digital world. Gold fit in a world that was not digital. Gold fit in the world where every asset was physical. But when you have a world where all of your assets are being dematerialized, music as an asset is totally dematerialized today. Movies have been dematerialized today. All right. Mail has been dematerialized. Libraries have been dematerialized to be on your phone. Information, knowledge, education, it's no longer a physical world. So a physical monetary system does not work anymore. And this is why over the past 10 years, as the world has become more and more digital in nature, gold has failed to basically keep up with basic inflation. And this is your ultimate inflation hedge for the past 6,000 years. This has been the ultimate form of money for the past 6,000 years. But in the past 10 to 15 years, with the rapid rate of the dematerialization of assets, the digitization of the world, gold is a failure. And I believe it will continue to be a failure. And I'm sorry for disappointing many of the gold bugs. I know that the Money Show attracts a lot of gold bugs, but I don't think I believe this phenomenon that we're seeing with gold is only going to get worse. It's an analog asset that is still trying to stay alive and relevant in a new digital society. Doesn't work. Bonds. All right, guys, bonds have been in a 300-year bubble. Now, over the past 10 years, bonds have on average yielded about every year about 3.8%. Now, that's taking all the types of bonds into consideration. That's sort of like your global bond average. Today, many bonds are yielding negative interest rates. This is your 10-year average. The average this year is dramatically less. It's something like 1.8%. Now, there was a time where you could get in the late 70s, in the early to mid 80s, you could get a bond that was yielding 21%, 24%, 18%. Today, you'd be lucky if you get a bond yielding 2.5%. Okay. This is an asset class that is also starting to wane in its importance as the world has gone from a relatively decent interest rate to basically negative, zero to negative interest rates. And the world has traditionally, over the past 40 years, the financial world has operated on this general assumption that you have 60% of your portfolio in equities and 40% in bonds. That has been the mantra of the financial world. It's called the 60-40 split, 60-40, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. But if bonds are yielding close to zero now, that 40% is now negative yielding when you incorporate in inflation. And so bonds are becoming as inappropriate for wealth accumulation as is gold. All right. So bonds are starting to go the way of gold as well and become less and less adequate as a permanent fixture in a wealth portfolio. Real estate has been okay. Average 10-year rate is actually anywhere between 3 and 8%, depending upon where your real estate is. Okay. So 6.9% more or less. I mean, I know that there are certain areas in the United States that over the last couple of years have been gaining something like 16%. All right, which is crazy. But real estate has been decent. It hasn't been phenomenal. All right. It's been decent. Okay. So this sort of keeps up with at least stated inflation rate, but not necessarily real inflation rates. We know that real inflation rates really are far higher than what is communicated or reflected in the CPI numbers. Now, the S&P, this is where we start to get interesting. S&P 500 has averaged about 12.4% over the past 10 years. So if you converted cash to gold, you underperformed. Negative if you incorporate it in inflation. If you converted your cash to bonds, you did poorly as well. Real estate, you did better. But if you converted your cash to the S&P 500, stocks basically, all right, you outperformed. This is where the vast majority of the wealth has been made. And if you look at the NASDAQ was the best performing asset on this list over the past 10 years, averaging 16.6%, with the bulk of that coming in the last few years. Why would the NASDAQ outperform everything else? Because of this phenomena I explained to you. We are becoming a more digital society. NASDAQ has more stocks and more companies that are focused on the digitization of the world, that is focused on dematerializing the world through technology. And the S&P has a few more stocks that are more legacy oriented, that are focused more on analog business models. All right. But still has enough of the new society in it to keep up. So if you converted over the last 10, 20, 30 years or so, if you converted your cash to equities, all right, you stayed ahead. And if you think about where the vast majority of wealth has been made over the last 20 years, it's in the stock market. Now, guys, look, every generation has one thing to get right. And if you get this one thing right in your generation, a generation never has two things to get right. Every generation has one thing to get right. Listen to me carefully. And if you get that one thing right in your generation, you're going to be okay. Listen, my grandparents, their generation, what they had to get right was to get a college degree. You see, if my grandparents and anyone in my grandparents' era managed to have the resources to go to school and get a college education, they were the elite in their class. They were the elite in their society. They were the elite of their time. They were the minority. They could have a guaranteed great job that caused them to live head and shoulders above the vast majority of the people on planet Earth. This was the one thing that my grandparents' era had to get right: an education. My parents, their generation came along after. They had one thing to get right. And if they got this thing right, their wealth increased and they could live better than everyone else. What was their one decision to get right? Their one thing they had to get right in their generation? Home ownership, real estate. My parents were in the throes of the real estate boom, where virtually every book sold in the bookstore was how to buy real estate with $0 down, how to become wealthy as real estate, how to get loans for this. My parents had to get real estate right. And there are millions of families who got it right, bought a house for $30,000, $60,000, sold it for $1.5 million, $2 million. Their wealth was tied largely to a real estate choice, even if their jobs weren't that great. That's the one thing that my parents' generation had to get right. Now, my generation followed my parents. And we had, as my generation, this one thing to get right. And if we got this one decision right, we rose to the top of the echelon and could live better than anyone else. What was my generation's decision? Thank God I got it right. The stock market. I started my professional career on Wall Street in December of 1986. I was a young 20-something-year-old. I got it right. I focused my life on the equity markets. I focused my life on the stock market. I focused my life on the financial markets. And that is my generation's choice. And if you did not do that, look at the numbers. If you stuck to real estate, you underperformed. If you stuck to bonds, which is really decades before, you underperformed more. If you stuck to gold, which was really decades and decades before, you underperformed more. And if you stuck to cash, like our great-great-grandparents, you were negative. But if you got my generation's choice right, which is equities, you're on the right side of this. Now, what about the generation that follows mine? What's their choice? It's very simple. Numbers don't lie. It's Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. That's the new era's decision to get right. Mine was to get the equity markets right. Now, these eras blend. So fortunately, I can blend my right decision in the equity markets with this new era that is sort of coming into full bloom now. Look at these numbers. The NASDAQ was very impressive, but has nothing, can't even come close to Bitcoin's annualized return every single year for the past 10 years, 213%. You know what this number means? You double your money every 6 months. I mean, not literally every 6 months, on average. You double your money every 6 months. There is nothing on this list that even comes close to this. And if you are in this new generation, if you have more than 40 years left in your life, if you get this choice wrong, you will not keep up with the elite. Your wealth will not increase. You've got to get this one right. Now, I know this is about 5 stocks, but I have to go here first. Now, why is this the case? Because, guys, look at this. Bitcoin is going to drive all future market gains. That's my prediction. Bitcoin's going to be the fuel behind which stocks outperform. Bitcoin's going to be the fuel behind which sectors of the market outperform other sectors. Okay, so this is why you've got to get this right. Even to find the right stocks, you're going to have to get the Bitcoin question or the Bitcoin choice right. Okay, now, why is this the case? Because look at this statement I have at the bottom here. Bitcoin is the internet of money. Now, listen to me very carefully. I am not saying that Bitcoin is the money of the internet. No, 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 no. There's a very big difference between these two statements. Bitcoin is not the money for the internet. Bitcoin is the internet of money. You see, traders, this is something that I need you to understand very carefully right now. It may be just the most important thing I say, or the most important thing for you to understand during my talk with you today. And it's this, that the internet changed the world forever. It was the fastest adopted technology in the history of the world. Electricity wasn't adopted faster than the internet was. TV was not adopted faster than the internet was. Not even computers were adopted faster than the internet was. The internet came on the scene and was adopted faster than any other thing known to mankind until Bitcoin came into existence. The internet was adopted at the rate of 63% a year. Bitcoin's being adopted at the rate of 123% a year. That's double the rate. It is completely taking over the world. If the internet took over the world, and it did, at twice the rate, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency adoption is taking over the world at twice the rate. Now, here's the thing. It is clear that the internet, having taken over the world, changed commerce forever. It changed the way you breathe. It changed what you were interested in. It changed information forever. It changed education forever. It changed shopping forever. It changed commerce forever. Do you understand? So what didn't the internet ever touch? It destroyed every other category in the world except one category. It revolutionized, the internet revolutionized every segment of society except one. It radically brought down everything that was old. And if you did not adopt the internet, you became a relic and you weren't able to survive the future. So think about what the internet did. It destroyed every former industry and recreated it. Except one, it never touched money. The internet never touched money. It touched every aspect of our lives except money. It touched every business except the money of the business. It touched every segment of society, every sector in finance except the money of those sectors. You see, the legacy cash system stayed in place. Visa card stayed in place. MasterCard stayed in place. Check stayed in place. Wires stayed in place. Remittance stayed in place. Do you follow? Nothing was touched on the money side until now. So what has Bitcoin come on the scene to do? To take what was started with the internet to now bring that to all of the legacy financial systems of the world. Their time is up. And so Bitcoin is not money for the internet. It is the internet of money. It's Internet 2.0. And it is going to take all of the legacy financial systems out there that had the ability to stay put and not change, not evolve, not improve because they weren't threatened. Right now, it's their time. They escaped the internet's revolution, but they will not escape Bitcoin's revolution. And so that's what you have to understand. This is about financial evolution. And if you think that what the internet brought to information and knowledge and commerce was big, the financial segment is exponentially bigger. And so this is the decision you've got to get right, okay? Now, Look at what the internet did. We're going to go back 20 years. All right. I don't have Microsoft here. Microsoft should be there as well. But look, the internet helped to create some of the biggest, most powerful companies in the entire world. Okay. Google, if you put $1,000 in Google 10 years ago, you got 6K. If you put $1,000 in Facebook 10 years ago, you got 9K. Amazon, 22K. Netflix, 34K. Tesla, nice, 159K. But 10 years ago, if you put $1,000 in Bitcoin, you'd be worth more than $250 million. I was brought up to seek truth through financial markets. That I was taught my whole career that not in the short term, but ultimately over time, markets reveal the truth. They reveal the desires of society, the wishes, the evolution, the progress of mankind, because commerce and finance ultimately follows the human spirit. And I was taught to seek truth through finances. And so I was taught that you at least need a 10-year block of time to see what is the market telling you? What truth is the market telling you? Well, if we look at this slide, which is a slice of the past 10 years, what is the market telling us? What's the truth here? It should be clear that the next choice is the whole revolution or evolution. I believe it's more of an evolution, not a revolution. It's not combative. Some people can interpret it as combative and revolutionary in nature. It's just evolution. And so now what the world is saying, what the markets is saying, is that it's time for the legacy financial system, which is the biggest part of life right now, to be completely taken over. It's pointing to where the future is. All right. The internet created Google, Facebook, and these are amongst the most powerful companies in the world today. But Bitcoin's going to create the next most powerful companies in the world tomorrow. The internet created Google, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, but there's a new batch of companies that will be affected and driven by Internet 2.0. Let's get it straight. We've had Internet 1.0. We now have Bitcoin, Internet 2.0, and Internet 2.0 is going to create our next Google, our next Facebook, our next Amazon, and next, you get the point. And so that brings me to this. These are the top assets in the world, traders. I didn't create this. This is not my opinion. This is the truth that the market is saying. Bitcoin is the youngest asset, virtually the youngest asset in the world, and yet is already the 8th most valuable asset in the world. It's worth $1 trillion. Check this out. It took Microsoft 44 years to become $1 trillion asset. It took Bitcoin 12 years. It took Apple 42 years to become $1 trillion asset. It took Bitcoin 12 years, a baby. It took Amazon 24 years. It took Google 22 years. Do you see how the number of years to become $1 trillion asset gets less and less? 44, 42, 24, 22, 12. It's almost perfectly in half, isn't it? Well, maybe the next batch of things that come after Bitcoin reach their $1 trillion in half of 12 years, 6 years. This is crazy when you start to look at it through the eyes of the market, not through opinion, all right? Not through hyperbole. The market is speaking here, okay? And I am telling you that where you see Bitcoin today in eighth place as the eighth most valuable asset in the entire world. I don't know about worlds outside of our galaxy. We have yet to do intergalactic travel, right? But I do know this world, and I know that Bitcoin is number 8 in the world today. And I am willing to bet that by the end of this year, that's right. How many weeks do we have until the end of this year? How many months? Just a few. By the end of this year, it's number 2. I believe that Bitcoin is going to surpass Google, Silver, Amazon, Microsoft, Saudi Aramco, and Apple by the end of the year. And maybe in the next few months after that, it's number 1, but it will ultimately be number 1. And so at this particular point, it can't be ignored, and it has to be recognized as a driving force of the financial world. You can't become number 8 in 12 years and be ignored. And you certainly can't become number 2 or number 1 in the world and be ignored. And so what's going to have to happen? What has to happen now? Businesses, just like they had to connect into Internet 101 to survive. Imagine a company that decided, what is this World Wide Web? I'm not plugging my business into the World Wide Web. Where are they today? I'm not getting on the internet. Any business that failed to plug themselves into that network, internetwork, that's what it is, a network. Internet, short for internetwork. If you didn't plug yourself into that network, you died. Now we've got internetwork number 2, Bitcoin. And if you don't plug your business here, you are going to die. That is my prediction. It might be a slow death, but it will be death nonetheless. And so when it comes to picking stocks, it's going to be relatively easy, in my opinion. Which companies decide to plug a portion of their business into the Bitcoin network? What creative ways are they going to start using the network, generating something through that network? And you need to stay away from firms that refuse to do that. And so I believe that picking stocks in the future are going to be relatively easy. Until everybody starts plugging in, then you have a lot of choice. But now it's relatively easy because there's just a small handful who are actually starting to realize what I'm explaining to you today. Now, all right, 5 stocks that have already plugged into the new internet, into Bitcoin. 5 stocks have already made the Bitcoin connection. And so I'm going to reveal these 5 stocks to you, and we're going to watch them over the next several months to 6 months. And I'm going to come back here and say, I told you so. Listen, I can't give you financial advice. I'm not allowed to do that, nor would I do that. I am telling you that I'm only telling you what I believe. But I believe I'm going to come back and say, I told you so, just like I have a variety of other times, okay? All right, so listen, what I got to do is I have to undo this for the moment and go to a full screen if I can. Give me a second. I've got to go to full screen, bring this down. Let me see if I can do this. And voila. Now, I'm hoping that's right. I think it is. Okay.
Yep, we can see the chart. Yep.
All right, fantastic. What you're looking at, guys, is a weekly chart of Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin is up a tremendous amount in the past week. I mean, it was just at 40,000. It's now almost 52,000. This is crazy, but it's just about to get crazier, in my opinion. So let me give you some prices, my prices. Okay. All right. And we'll see how accurate I am. Okay. We're at 51,600 right now, almost 51,700. By the end of this month, we're 65,000 or more. All right, write that down. Oliver says this month, we're in October, 65,000 or more. Write that down. Next month, over 93,000. Write that number down. Next month, 30 plus days from now, 90 plus thousand. I know you think I'm crazy. All right. I've got a lot of numbers backing this up. Okay. December, over 135,000. Okay. You got those numbers? 65 this month, over 92 next month, over 135 December. Now, you've written them down. I want you to write my name next to those numbers and let's just watch. Let's just watch. I've been doing this from Bitcoin at 3,800. So let's just see how accurate I am. Now, any company that is currently, if I'm right, any company that has plugged themselves into Bitcoin already, they're going to freaking double. Do you understand? Or more. Some of them might even triple. Now, so if Bitcoin triples, what do you think the stocks plugged into Bitcoin are going to do? What do you think the companies that have Bitcoin in the balance sheet are going to do? Even if their businesses are in the toilet, if they're plugged into this thing that triples, if I'm right, their stocks are going to go up anyway. And so it is an amazing edge. It is a hedge against a poor economy. It is a hedge against competition in your business field. And this frees a company up for greater freedom, to be more aggressive in their business stance, to have Bitcoin backing them up. It's crazy. Now, everyone talks about how it's an undesirable asset because it's volatile, but it's volatile to the upside. You saw those numbers, 213% annualized a year. All right. It's volatile to the upside. Volatility is not good or bad. It's just the direction of it. If a stock's volatile to the downside, it's bad. If a stock's volatile to the upside, that's good volatility. All right. And anything that's not volatile is freaking dead. All right. This idea of no volatility and wanting things that don't have volatility, that is a false notion. You don't make money unless your asset has some level of volatility. It's different if you want to maintain money, but I don't want to maintain my money. I want to grow my money. In order to do that, I need volatility. And there's nothing more volatile than Bitcoin right now. I believe that volatility wanes over the years because all new asset classes are volatile. Amazon was almost more volatile than Bitcoin. And so you had to really ride out some volatility to take advantage of Amazon, which is one of the best performing stocks of all time. Okay. So don't let this get in your way. And as we're talking, it's continuing to rise. Amazing. All right. So let's talk about the 5 stocks and then I got to go, guys. All right. This I'll make it very quick. The first stock we're going to look at is, there's no particular order to this, guys. Square. Now, what I like about Square as a stock that's already plugged itself into the Bitcoin network, right? I like the fact that almost instantly a big portion of its business is now being driven by Bitcoin adoption. Now, remember, we're talking about the most adopted asset in the history, the most adopted technology in the history of mankind. And so they've already made a big portion of their financial life currently is reliant on that adoption. And so I love the fact that this is a neat little bridge between your financial legacy system. So you don't totally abandon what's going on in the legacy financial part of the world, but they plugged a big part of their future into the Bitcoin network. And so listen, this is a $1,000 stock in my view. It's at 230, that's Bitcoin's future price, $236 currently. I see this over $1,000. It's going to take time to do that. All right. If Bitcoin triples, this is not going to triple, but it might double, you see, and then continue. Okay. So Square is one of those very special companies that I think has a huge future ahead of itself because it was early in its plugging in last year into the Bitcoin network. Now, PayPal has followed Square's lead. All right. And now a big portion of their finances are tied to the Bitcoin network as well. but I think this is the more nimble one. This is the more aggressive one. This is going to, in my opinion, outperform that one, but you can do them both. Okay. Now, so that's one. The other thing I'd like you to take a look at Mara or Marathon Digital. Now, this is a Bitcoin miner. All right. Default seekers changed to what happened? Did I lose my speaking?
I can hear you. It did sound like the microphone changed, but we can still hear you.
All right. Okay, cool. Now,
you're good now.
So,
go ahead.
Good. Marathon Digital Holdings is a Bitcoin miner. Now, traditionally, they mine for Bitcoin, and their mining activities of earning Bitcoin have gone to all-time new highs recently. Now, get this, guys. Remember, this was a stock that was basically under $2 that exploded to 60. We're now about halfway back down. Great opportunity, in my opinion. All right. I see this well over $100, $150 stock. Now, what's really neat about Marathon is that traditionally, Bitcoin miners have to sell a portion of the Bitcoin they mine to run the operation. Oh, no. Marathon is smart enough to go public, raise capital to run its operation, take out almost interest-free loans to support its business, and it keeps 100% of the Bitcoin it mines on the balance sheet. Are you freaking kidding me? This is turning the legacy system on top of itself. So interest rates in the legacy system have gone to zero. I get money for free. I get money for free by going to public. I also get money for free because interest rates are zero. And this allows me to keep 100% of the Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Let's not forget, Bitcoin is being adopted and growing faster than any technology known ever to mankind. It is an annualized rate of 213%. They're holding the rarest and one of the most valuable assets in the world on their balance sheet without selling a single Bitcoin. Watch what this does. Okay, that's Mara. Okay, I like Kathy Lee's ARK Innovation ETF. All right, ARKK is the symbol. Okay, so Mara's symbol was MARA. ARK symbol, ARK Innovation is ARKK. Now, she has a variety of ETFs that focus on different segments of the financial world. There's a fintech ETF she has, which is cool. But I picked this one because even though she's cooled off a little bit on one of her biggest investments, Tesla, she still has Tesla in here. So Tesla is one of the largest owners of Bitcoin in the publicly traded world, right? So instead of putting Tesla on this list, we can get Tesla for free through ARK. Now, in addition to that, she is one of the largest owners of Bitcoin as well in her space. So think about what we're getting with ARKK, with ARK Innovation ETF. We're getting Tesla, we're getting Bitcoin, and everything else she chooses. This is crazy. We're getting all of this in one shot. Okay. So if Bitcoin does what I think it's going to do, this is not lower. This is higher. And it's simple math. Okay. So ARK is the third. All right. And what else am I going to choose here for you? Oh, yes, we can't go anywhere without Coin. Now, Coin is the new kid on the block, but it is the most successful direct investment listing in financial history. Guys, banks and traditional brokerage firms would die for Coinbase's numbers, symbol Coin. They are eating the world. Do you understand? Like, this chart doesn't look like it. They just started the price a little bit too high, but that's good for us because we're coming in now. All right. And guys, this is a 1,000 plus stock in my view. They are eating the world. The numbers are off the chart. There's no piece of paper where their numbers can fit on the piece of paper. It's crazy. There's no comparison. Their growth, there's not any firm in this space, in the brokerage space, in the banking space. They're coming after the banks. They're coming after all the brokerage firms, and their numbers kill everyone already. It's just a matter of time, in my view. All right. And so I think this is well over $1,000 as a stock. And so, the way I do these things is I dollar cost average into them. I don't put everything on the line at one price. Come on, this is not freaking kindergarten, right? We don't do that. We don't roll the dice like that. But, I take my little investment and break it into 5 or 10 pieces. And here's one piece now. I like the way this looks right now. It looks like let me put 1 or 2 pieces in. And that's how I ease in. And I give myself price diversification and time diversification. Okay. All right. So coin. So how many we got? We've got Square, Mara, ARK Invest, Coin, and why am I missing? Why am I forgetting this? Why am I forgetting this, guys? Why am I forgetting this? This is crazy. It's just that I have more than 5, so I can't remember which one I picked. Let me quickly check for you. Did I write it down? Okay. This one hasn't. This is the special one that I have for you. This one I'm about to tell you. This is the last one. This one hasn't plugged themselves into the Bitcoin network. In fact, they have what little bit that they were connected, they've announced to undo it. So I know that sounds counter to what I'm saying, but this is my special bet that that's going to be reversed. I don't know when. In the near future, that's going to be reversed, but they have to right now because they're based out of China. And I think that one of the most explosive opportunities is that because China's anti-cryptocurrency, anti-Bitcoin stance, in my opinion, can't last forever. When they flip the switch back, when they relax things again, these things are going to freaking explode. And they're being hurt by that right now. And other things as well. We know other things as well, but the stock is Alibaba, guys. Alibaba. Why can't I get the right symbol here? This is why is this doing this? Oh, there we go. Okay. Alibaba. This is my special bet that eventually they're just too big not to be plugged in. They have to be plugged in. And the whole Chinese economy is ultimately going to have to be plugged in. So when that starts to relax again, these things are just going to jump, man, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60%. All right. Now, the other reason is that Baba's just, this stock is huge, but this is huge tech. And it's probably the most undervalued big tech company in the world right now. And so I just don't think that there is much downside left. And we've got that future. Sometimes betting on a future move can be bigger than betting on the move itself. All right. And so I just think that ultimately the pressure is going to be too great that Alibaba and many companies in China are going to have to plug themselves in. There will be too much to miss. And these things are going to just jump big. So this is my special bet on the future of Baba adopting the Bitcoin way as well, the cryptocurrency way as well. All right. Now, so those are my 5 stocks, guys. Those are the 5 ways that I believe that over the next 6 months, certainly over the next year, and over the next several years, These are going to outperform, especially anything that, in my opinion, is not tied into Internet 2.0. And so there you have it, right? You know what we covered: Square, all right, SQ. We covered Marathon, MARA. Okay. We covered ARK Invest, ARKK. Okay. And we covered Coinbase, C Coin, COIN. And we have Baba as that very, very, very special play. All right. One last thing before I leave you guys. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope I've laid some type of groundwork to at least provoke some interesting thinking on your part. Even if you're not completely sold on my vision and my view here, I hope I've at least done that. What I would like to do, if I can, is just some of you might be interested in this, guys. Some of you might just be interested in some of the things that I offer here. And I just want to quickly show you. Guys, I have a wealth program. This is what we do in the wealth program. We scour the earth for opportunities. My wealth program has been in existence for the last 12 years. We killed the last 10 years. I believe that the next 10 years, because of this new wave that I talked about today, it's going to actually be even exponentially greater than the last 10 years if you get it right. And I believe, based on what I've explained to you, we've got it right. All right. This is a program for life. All right. We meet several times a month. We scour the earth for opportunities. You know exactly what I'm doing, what I'm buying, what I'm selling, forever, for life. We do it together, step by step, every buy, every sell, every look to the future, every new trend together. And there are approximately 700 people around the world that participate in this. There are many hedge fund managers that participate, many money managers, a lot of professionals, but also regular people like myself as well. And so if you're interested in that, there is a cost, of course. It's $4,000. I believe we have a special. So it's a 50% off wealth program, $2,000 for life, guys. You can lose 2,000 in one trade. You can lose 2,000 in one day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. This is a lifelong program. And I hope you've enjoyed. Now, I believe I have a talk coming up on Thursday. Is my talk on Thursday at the same time?
4:40 p.m. You start.
Yes. So
Thursday, October 7th at 4:40 p.m. Oliver will be back on the Money Show platform. I'm looking forward to. Thank you once again for having me. Thank you for your attendance, guys. Ciao. Thank you, Oliver, very much. We appreciate you and your insights always. You got a great response in the room. We don't have time for questions, but we want to thank everybody for attending the session. We obviously went over a little bit. The information was extremely valuable, we hope, for everybody involved. Again, thank you for participating in the sessions. And Oliver, again, thanks to you and your team for always participating and for your support, sir. We look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday. Everybody have a very good evening, and we'll see you the rest of the week. Thanks very much, guys. Gotcha. Bye-bye.